can help the police build relationships with residents that don't currently exist. Trust in the police is missing, and it undermines their ability to apprehend criminals and solve crimes. We see it in the uncooperative witnesses and the silence of communities that are not coming to grips with crime. Community policing can earn the public trust, which is vital as an ingredient in the fight against crime. And let me just talk about Crime Stoppers for a moment. We must again stress that Crime Stoppers is a proven method to prevent and solve crimes. I urge all Bermudians to use it and to trust it. It is trusted worldwide as a confidential vehicle for people to give information. And from what I understand, throughout the history of Crime Stoppers, there has not been one breach of confidentiality. So Bermudians, use it and trust it. Over the past few weeks, we have met with specialists in fighting gangs, and I want to talk about Operation Ceasefire for a moment. We have talked to the police here in New York and in Boston, as well as academics. Our research has taken us to what is called Operation Ceasefire, a program used in American cities to stop gang violence. We think it can be an effective tool in Bermuda. Its results have been startling. In Cincinnati in 2007, for example, Operation Ceasefire's first meeting with the gangs, homicides fell by 24%. In 2008, they were down 50%. In 1990, Operation Ceasefire was launched in the mid-90s in Boston, Massachusetts, and that was associated with a 2/3 drop in youth homicide. These results have gotten our attention. We've learned that Operation Ceasefire is a police community initiative to deter gang violence by reaching out to gangs with not only a stick, but a carrot. Explicit warnings are issued that violence will not be tolerated, and coming down hard on every legal lever that can be pulled is part of that action. This means you disrupt the gang's lives with immediate serving of warrants, mounting prosecutions, disrupting street-level drug markets, and strict enforcements of conditions for probationers and parolees. The flip side of this plan is that if gang members want a way out, there's a way out of this violent lifestyle. The Ceasefire Working Group would help them with the services needed to make it happen. And we think Ceasefire can have some legs in Bermuda. Police are well along in their identification of all gangs and gang members and the turf which they operate on. This is essential information to start the program. In addition, Bermuda as a community has social workers, active clergy, and community activists who would be more than willing to enlist in this type of program. Bermuda certainly does not have all the pieces in place at this time to immediately adapt Operation Ceasefire, but the people behind this program recognize our problem and are open to helping us stop the shooting. We will continue to talk with the people involved in Operation Ceasefire and report back to you. But the main point here is that there is hope. There is a way out of this mess. It will take a lot of things to come together: an action plan, volunteers, much work, patient commitment, and leadership. But it will help us get back to the safer environment that we have. I'll now turn it over to my colleague, Mr. Mullins.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the unscripted part of the press conference. I support what both of my colleagues, the party leader and the shadow spokesman for Home Affairs, say on all of the matters they've raised. My position on the justice side of it has always been plain, that all of the parts of the justice system need to ratchet up their effectiveness. That ranges from the police and the public, which my colleague has covered, on through the court system, the prosecution service, the juries, etc. It's still very disturbing to me that we're getting a number of cases where the evidence appears to be overwhelming and people are being acquitted. That's not good enough, and we should be looking at a holistic system approach, a holistic approach to the criminal justice system to ratchet it up on all fronts, and it should be bipartisan. What we're not seeing is the government being willing to accept offers of assistance and suggestions from the opposition. We already have a bill tabled in the House, which my honorable colleague John Barrett has tabled, the Criminal Appeal Amendment Act. The government have still not indicated that they would support that act to give the prosecution the same right of appeal in criminal cases as the defense has. These are very simple and small things which need to be done. What I don't see is the political will to really address these issues. What it seems to me is that when we have an incident, the government steps out and they come up with some sort of knee-jerk reaction, hold a quick cabinet meeting, throw out a few suggestions, and then disappear into the woodwork. And what we see coming from the government side is suggestions from all over the map. On the one hand, we see suggestions that, well, we should decriminalize marijuana, to suggestions that, oh, well, it's all because of race. And then we see someone else saying, well, let's get tough. Unfortunately, that's a very inconsistent approach. We need a unified approach to this at all levels, and we are offering our hand to forge a bipartisan approach. And we believe we need a multi-pronged approach. We need to get tough. And there's a whole panoply of steps that can be taken. There are small steps that have been suggested from the public, such as stopping people from tinting the windows of their car so dark that you can't see who's in the car. Tinting the face helmets so that you can't see who's there. It's one of the problems when you have people on these bikes that are wearing helmets that cover their face and you can't see who it is. There are all sorts of approaches that the Attorney General and the government should be looking at that we don't accept they're looking at the present time. We also view that there are problems pandemic throughout the system, including the prisons. There was a very serious suggestion recently in the Kellen Hill retrial, the murder trial, that there were police officers who were giving out confidential information to the accused through their family. We want to see this resolved. We want to see what changes are going to take place in the police to address those forms of misconduct. From there, I would be willing to take questions from members of the press.
You mentioned, Mr. Mollis, that government is not willing to adopt a bipartisan approach to dealing with this, not willing to consult with you. But, well, Minister Birch came out yesterday and said that on the one hand, Mr. Dunkley is offering the olive branch, and on the other hand, offering nothing but bitter criticism. Could that be the reason? Is there any truth to that, first of all, and could that be the reason that there is no government is unwilling to adopt this bipartisan approach?
The nature of Parliament is that you have an opposition to criticize. Criticism is not a bad thing, it's a good thing. The government behaving in a certain way and the opposition bring forward a criticism is for government to consider and to answer that criticism. There's no point in being emotional about it. You have to look at the substance of what government are doing and the substance of the criticism. And, I'm most happy to receive constructive criticism at any time, and I think we all should be, and get over the emotional aspect of it.
Has government been approached with this Operation Ceasefire idea?
I spoke to it during the first time in the budget debate, and the minister was at the table. And so clearly, you would have thought at that time the minister was listening. One thing that we don't want to get involved in is personal politics. That's what the PLP is very good at doing. As soon as they get criticism, which is justified, you can't do anything but justify that this criticism that we've given is correct, because the violence hasn't been checked in any way. And we hear tough talk, as the honorable leader said, we hear tough talk for the past 2 years from the police. When something, from the government, when something happens, they have a press conference and they come out and say, enough's enough, we're going to do something about it. And then time goes on and nothing happens. And then we hear the talk again the next time there's an incident. We have come forward on a number of occasions over the past 2 years with specific initiatives which we think could be beneficial, and the government hasn't even listened or accepted any of them going forward. And until we break that mentality that the person in charge is the one that's correct, we're doomed as a community. Absolutely. It has to turn around. And so if the minister wants to get personal, go ahead, waste his energy. I'm not going there. We'll continue to provide solutions as we've done. And in fact, we spend a lot of energy on this. And if the government would like to, we'd happy to give them all the contacts we have with Operation Ceasefire. But at this point, all the minister wants to do is be critical of us and say we're rude or dishonest. That's trash. I don't want to hear that. I want to deal with facts to make Bermuda a safer place.
One final question.